Tense. This one wasn't too bad though. Some of the other ones were looking a little bit more rough around the edges. This one's not too bad. Not too bad. Once the dye goes on these corners especially, it'll mask a lot of that. So we just kind of want to make sure that doesn't stick up too much. That's really all I'm doing here. Okay. Okay, and I'm just trying to square the leather up a little bit. That's what I'm doing here. Again, Inheritance isn't too bad. It's the other ones that... A couple of them that were a little rough. So anyways, I'm just kind of doing that in case I need to. I can put some thicker paper in here, and that will help that transition from the leather into the center of the book. So that way when my paste papers go down, I don't get like this big, nasty edge. Some of these dark spots, just stuff that the leather picked up from my work surface as I was working on this, or from when I had it placed in the press. So this mostly just smells like acetone. Hopefully it's got a little bit more in it than that. I could just bought acetone. That's all it was. But yeah, there was some dark stuff over here, and maybe you can kind of see some of the dark things that were picked up just while I was working on this. So I'm not too worried about just like the dark spots in general. It's mostly if I have any glue residue. I can't have that on the leather when it goes to dye, or it'll look really, really bad. So hey, thanks, Chevy guy. Yeah, here's how it's coming along. So it's really starting to come together. Got the knot work all done yesterday. Now we're just prepping it to get dyed. So I'm not sure how I feel about this Angelous's leather preparer and deglazer. I don't know if you've ever used this stuff before. Hopefully it's all downhill from here. This is the most nerve-wracking part, I think, of the whole process. This is that prep work before you dye the leather. I don't know, I struggle with dyeing still, personally. Don't always get the exact effect that I feel like I'm looking for. So, and especially like with these color dyes, they're so finicky. And there's not a lot of tutorials on them. Hey, how's it going? Welcome, welcome in. Flay Leatherworks. Got some leather guys watching today. Don't judge too harshly. Did I get something on? Yeah, so it's just a little bit of residual glue from the glue up process. So not a ton, but you know, it's hard to get it completely off your fingers as you're putting the whole thing together. And so just that little bit of residual glue. So not a ton, I try to mitigate it as much as possible, but sometimes it's unavoidable. So, anyways, like I said, that's what I'm trying to use this cleaner for. Got guys from the leather community. Welcome, welcome. Yeah, like I said, if you guys notice anything or have any advice, I'm all ears. Ready, willing to learn wherever I can. So I don't know, it doesn't feel like it's quite getting these dark spots off like I thought it would. I mean, I'll still go over it as much as possible, but It says to rub lightly, and I feel like I'm really pushing on this. So I don't know, maybe it's just kind of meant as like a light surface cleaner. And I'm just hoping for too much. Hey, well, a year is longer than I've done it, so really only been doing this for a couple months, seriously at least. Yeah, I guess I'll just lightly go over the rest of it. So as to avoid any discoloration that might be caused. I don't know, hopefully it worked better than nothing, but I'm not seeing a huge difference. And I don't want to rub too hard because then it'll start to take that grain off. Okay, there we go. So, like I said, this is for inheritance. So, we'll set that one to the side for a second. Here's Brissinger. Set the text block to the side. So this one, I definitely have to probably prep the back here a little bit more. My leather got a little crazy. Yeah, so I do have an Etsy. I'm actually moving on though, starting my own website. So if you go and you click the links, I think I have it set up now where it'll take you to my website instead of Etsy. But yeah. So yeah, thanks for the compliment. And you said that you've never carved. You should try it. It's really not as intimidating. Or really not as bad as it should be. It's not as bad as it seems. I can English today. It's very intimidating at first. But it's not too bad. This right here that I'm carving on is goat skin. So it's very different from carving into cowhide. So that's why if you're looking at it in the camera and you're wondering why it looks so shallow, why the design looks so shallow, that's why. It's because I can't really carve too deeply into goat to begin with. Yeah, I don't think carving into leather should be as intimidating as it sometimes is. I did have a patchwork to do right here. So once it's all done and dyed, I don't think you'll notice it at all. It is unfortunate that I had to do it at all, but like I said, once the text block is in place and everything, I don't even think you'll notice it. So, yeah, there you go. So that's where the patchwork is, and that line will fade significantly once I put the dye on it. You need a teacher? Yeah, I wish I had a teacher. I wish I had or knew anybody even somewhat local that could help me, or that could teach me. But everything I do I've learned off of, like, YouTube. So yeah, I really just don't know what I'm doing. You make bracers? That's sweet. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff in leatherwork that I haven't branched out or tried to do it all, you know. But I think that would be sweet. You were in school for leatherwork? That's way cool. That's interesting. YouTube University, man. It really is. It's a great place. Having been to an actual university myself, I can attest to the fact that YouTube probably taught me just as much, if not more, than my own professors did. Whenever I had a question, or whenever I had to study for a test or anything, I would just hop on YouTube and learn it there. So, yeah, I feel like I learned probably just as much, if not more, from YouTube than I did my professors. So this one didn't get nearly as dirty on the front, so I'm not quite as nervous about it. That on like the spine of a book and have like the tail dangling out underneath it. So I know it's like super hillbilly, maybe a little white trash, but it's something I've always wanted to try to do. I thought it'd be really fun to like take like a Mark Twain book or something and bind it up that way. Okay, there we go. I'll just have to trust that this is getting some of that glue off, hopefully. Okay. So I think that's looking pretty good. We'll set this one to the side as well for a second. I need to find a place to set these. Okay, so here's Aragon, book 1. You're from Amsterdam. Woo! What time is it there? Holy cow. It's gotta be like super early in the morning, right? No, I guess not. 4 a.m.? Yes, early in the morning. Holy cow. Well, welcome, welcome. Boy, that is crazy. Hope everything's going well over there in Amsterdam. Man, see, like, you probably have tons of bookbinders over there. When all the bookbinders I follow, everything I see on Instagram or YouTube, they're all over there in Europe. But here in America, it is so hard to find anyone that does anything with bookbinding. And actually, there's really only like 3 guilds in America, really, that do anything. And even out of those guilds, they're all on the East Coast. So for me, I'm all the way out in Utah. For me to get my hands on any sort of like official bookbinding equipment, I'd have to really, really take a drive. Yeah, all the good bookbinding equipment is over there in Europe. I've especially seen a lot of stuff in Amsterdam, so... But here in America, by the time things were really getting established here, the forms of bookbinding had changed so much that those traditional medieval tools were going heavily out of use. And they were finding more and more streamlined ways to bind books. Until they came up with the perfect binding system, which is what they mostly use today. Which is a horrible form of binding. Alright, take care, Chevy guy. Yeah, there's a lot of mink farms out here. What YouTuber do you follow? It's out in Utah. Joseph Carter. Yeah, I haven't heard of him. But yeah, there's a lot of mink. There's a ton of mink out here. I know my uncle grew up next to a lot of mink farms, and they, oh, They smell horrible. But yeah, that used to be one of like the biggest industries out here in Utah. It's like mink, cherries, and salt. That's like our biggest stuff. Well, I guess copper too. If you have anything copper over there, it was probably sourced here in Utah. Skewed world perspective that everything's just in constant upheaval, and that isn't necessarily true. My wife's from Canada, so talk to her parents all the time. They're always just like talking about like the crazy stuff going on in America. But Yeah, that was one I wanted to watch. The other one I wanted to watch was The Northman. I never got out to go see that one either. But okay, so there we go. There's Aragon, all trimmed and true. Actually, I think I missed going on the backside here a little bit. Gotta make sure I catch that, because the dye will go on the other side. And if it's splotchy on the inside, it'll still be very noticeable. Too late for Northland. Yeah, I gotta go see that one still. That's like right up my alley. I love historical dramas, so I'm a huge Last Kingdom fan. I just kind of like the Vikings in general. I mean, I'm more of like interested in the Saxon histories because that's where my family originated from. And even just for fun, I studied a little bit of Saxon English, so. So, ich sprechen de alles Englisk. Dude, I love The Last Kingdom. Where beat verlaten. Yeah, I love The Last Kingdom. Tried to do Vikings and I just couldn't, to be honest. It got you into leather, huh? That's interesting. How did that work out? How did that interest you in leather work? It's true. I do love, yeah, I love when he puts on like his fur overcloaks. They just make him look huge. I think my wife's uncle raises yak. And anyways, that would be like super cool. I know that he like keeps the furs from him all the time. But I think he does that, and then he has various various species of oxen as well. But sometimes I take them out to get slaughtered, and those would be sweet furs to turn into cloaks. That's sweet. Do you hunt out there? Is archery hunting a big thing there? Yeah, no, I'm a classic American. I hunt with an AR-10. Or I guess a variation of it. It's 6.5 Creedmoor. So, the chamber is very close to the 308, but... But even then, like, I just think that would be so difficult. Because, again, with compounds, right, you can pull it back. And then it has that breakpoint, of course, which allows you to aim properly. But you put just like a recurve, something with like a heavy draw weight on it, and you have to hold it for a long period of time. That'd be crazy. Go hunting with dogs. Yeah, out here, I have a buddy that does a lot of swan hunting, so he uses dogs for that. And cougar is pretty popular out in Utah as well. But I imagine the Netherlands has killed off any predatorial cats that may or may not have come anywhere close to the region. Yeah, that's sweet. That's way cool. Yeah, I think the European lion has been extinct for well over 1,000 years. I don't know the exact time frame that the European lion went into extinction, but I wouldn't even be surprised if it was 2,000 years ago. Colleges do not approve your fur ambition. That's funny. Yeah, the European lions. They're mostly prevalent down in like the southern areas, so like Greece, closer to Anatolia. But they were much smaller than like their African counterparts. Only 20 wolves, huh? That's funny. Yeah, there's just so many people that live in the Netherlands. It's crazy. Like, I've never been. I've been to Paris. That's really all I even saw of France. Was just Paris itself. Um, so it doesn't really give you, I guess, a good idea of like the population density. But I've seen plenty of maps, especially nighttime maps, that just look insane. For me, like for a Utah boy, right, where my closest friend was like 4 miles down the street, so I had to bike forever. But yeah, so like for me to think about like anywhere in Europe just blows my mind that there's that many people living in such a small area. Like I can go to parts of Utah where I can drive for hours at 80 miles an hour. And I can drive easily for 6 hours and not see a single man-made structure. In fact, just yesterday, I went out to Stansbury Island, which is an island in the middle of the Great Salt Lake, and it just blew my mind how there was just nothing out there. There's Morton salt, so they harvest the salt out of the Salt Lake, and they had like a few settling ponds out there, but that was it. So there's an entire island, an entire mountainside, basically, with nothing and no one. Anything. No birds. No, like, just like, even just the rustle of animals in the trees. It was just dead silent. It was crazy. About 5 minutes. Yeah, see, I lived in Pennsylvania for about 3 years, and I lived in New York for 2. And the population density there isn't even close to that of Europe. But even then, compared to Utah, it drove me crazy how, like, I felt like I just couldn't get away. You know, I felt like everywhere you went, every, like, back country road that you took, just had tons and tons and tons of people living in just everywhere. You felt like you couldn't throw a rock in any direction without, like, hitting somebody's house. And I'm just so, like I said, I'm just not used to that. See, but I grew up in, like, even the small parts of Utah. So, not even close to Salt Lake City. So you been to New York? That's sweet. Like, the city, or, were you able to go out to, like, Niagara Falls? Because I was closer to Niagara Falls. I was living in the Buffalo, Rochester area. You were like middle of Manhattan. Yeah, very different. Very different from Western New York. People in Western New York can't stand the city. So I wasn't like city. I was like out in their farmlands, countryside. When I lived in Pennsylvania, though, I was like right next to Philly. So, yeah, I've been to Manhattan a couple times. And again, as like a Utah boy going out there, was just like mind-blowing. It was crazy to me to think that there were more people in the apartments there than live in the entire state of Utah. Like, walking through the streets, it was crazy to think that there were more people above my head living somewhere up in those apartment buildings than in the entire state of Utah. Yeah, this kind of has a way of like making you feel small. The Brooklyn Zoo. DC doesn't feel like a big city. Well, okay, scratch that. It doesn't feel like it's as big as it really is. Right? That's a huge city. there's a ton of people there, but they keep their buildings relatively small, and so you don't feel like it's as big as it really is. But yeah, that's sweet. But America's huge, you know, like I've driven to Philly more than a few times. And that's like a 32-hour drive, I think, something like that. And like I think if I were to drive that same distance from Paris just heading out west, sorry, heading out east, I think I would drive well past Moscow, like going that exact same distance. That's interesting. Yeah, I didn't realize that. Yeah, American architecture is probably extremely underwhelming for somebody from Europe. Okay, there we go. So that's Eldest. That one's all cleaned up and ready to go. So we're going to circle back to where we started, and we're going to start applying the neat's foot oil to it. Yeah, I feel like if you're from Europe coming to America, the places I would seem like the most exotic would be like our natural scenery, probably, because again our man-made structures are probably pretty boring in like 10 hours. Yeah, that's funny. For me to just drive down to like the southern tip of Utah is like an 8-hour drive. So my brother used to live down there. He moved up north. But yeah, we would drive down to, it's called St. George, but we would drive down to St. George all the time. So so yeah, I guess 10 hours from here would put me, I guess I would put me pretty close to Flagstaff, Arizona. I guess that could be true. Yeah, the being in the midst of the skyscrapers that they have there. But yeah, you're right. New York can be impressive in its own ways. Just the sheer magnitude of the city. Because yeah, I feel like even cities of like a somewhat comparable size just don't feel the same. Like I've been to Chicago. I've been, of course, in Philly, all around Philly. What's funny is I really haven't spent any time out in California, even though California is a lot closer to where I am than the East Coast. But yeah, the last time I went to California, I was 2 years old. So in your cornfield, huh? Where are you from? Nebraska? Been through Nebraska a couple times. Always just passing through on the I-80 though, so Bingo! Hey! Alright. Man, now that's a state with some wide open spaces. Holy cow. Because you got a population density that's like the same as Utah's, but without any mountains. Born with corn. Yeah, no, Nebraska's sweet. Like I said, I've only really passed through. So I've like passed through Lincoln. I think I got a hot dog in Omaha once, but okay, there we go. Got that one all neat's foot oiled up. I've never seen Children of the Corn. I caught the reference, but didn't feel like I could comment on it because I've never actually seen seen the movie. There we go. Man, so what's there even to do in Nebraska? I'm sure you get that question all the time. But to me, it just always seems like there's a whole lot of empty space out there. So I'm a BYU fan, and I just remember a couple of years ago when BYU beat Nebraska that they were just freaking out. They were not happy that a little Utah team came and beat them. Okay, there we go. Here's Brissinger getting ready to die, be put together. I feel like neat's foot oil reacts so differently to the goat than it does on cowhide. Because normally when I put this stuff on the cowhide, it just like sucks it in immediately. But this stuff seems to sit on the surface a little bit more. So, it's kind of interesting. Just a little different. So you bought it pre-finished? And how are you liking it? You're probably noticing too that it's be a little different. It's a very pliable leather, which is nice, especially for bookbinding purposes. To make shoes out of it, so it's pretty good garment leather too. But it's still a very, very soft leather. Yeah, I'm excited. I'm gonna do some historical replicas with that sheepskin that I bought. We'll see how that stuff reacts. I haven't used sheep for bookbinding yet, so. Okay, there we go. There's Aragon. And last one is Eldest. Okay, interesting. Is that a project you're live streaming? I haven't had a chance to get over to your stream yet. Yeah, I don't know if you've streamed since I followed you yet. But I'm looking forward to getting over there. A lidded box. That's sweet. I know a lot of bookbinders make boxes too. It's something I haven't tried yet, but there's a lot of things I haven't tried yet, so. Okay, so we got the conditioner going. We'll let that kind of soak in for a little bit. I got some touch-up work that I need to do around my designs before I go straight in with the dye. So I'll go and start working on that here in just a second. Usually I just go around it with a Sharpie, because otherwise if I try to get too close to the edge with my black dye, I can find myself in trouble real fast. Because that stuff just runs and runs without any boundaries. So yeah, like I said, I like to just go over it with a Sharpie first, get those nice crisp lines, and then I'll fill in like the bulk area with the black dye. Because once something gets dyed black, there's no going back. That's it. It's game over. Okay. So let that conditioner soak in for a little bit. And I can assess if it needs a second coat here in just a second. We'll just go ahead and start back over with Brissinger. Okay. So yeah, so all this like main area here, that's gonna turn black. But I want the dragons to be colored. So I'll just go through and do a border with the Sharpie so that I don't have to get nearly as close with my paintbrush. As I apply the black dye.